You in need of a guide? Well, today we start off with the basics, okay? Basically, we're going to go through how to start, go a little bit over the tutorial and get some basic resources that you should probably be using while you use this thing just to get you started. If you have more questions, drop them in the comments below. I'm happy to help and help me grow. Drop a like and subscribe if you want more. Not really knowing exactly where to start or what some like actual questions are, I think I'm just gonna go into a pretty basic beginning dive just for people who want to start into this. So we'll cover some basics, we'll cover, just using the tool, and then if you guys want some more, information on a certain subject, maybe the lore book, maybe the advanced options, stuff that can be, it's explained, but maybe you're a visual learner, stuff like that. We can go through it in time, but this will just be sort of a laying down of the fundamentals, because I sort of know what I'm doing with the tool, right? All right, now first things first. If you're just starting, I'm pretty sure this is a thing that happens at the beginning. If you haven't tried it, didn't focus, didn't read it at all, of course, try to do one of these tutorials, right? These are the two standard ways that most people would use a text generation style one. Reminder that Novel AI is not exactly like a GPT-4 or another instruct model, right? Like, they play out very differently. It's not a command, like command given thing, right? It's not gonna talk to you like it's like a back and forth, like a buddy, like sometimes you would do with Chat GPT. It is more a writing tool in a sense. It's just straight up. It's gonna follow your style as best it can. It's gonna follow your text as best it can, and eventually you'll get into a flow of it just helping you build on those ideas that you have. And instead of needing to tell it directly what you want to do, you sort of just want to lead it on, okay? Sort of like a carrot on a stick type thing. You just want to give it little hints of where you want it to go. Or, you can be blunt with it. It's not like you can't get it to do exactly what you want. It is not just a sort of guessing game all the time. It is just more that it's gonna be just working off the prose instead of directly using what you say to it. I would recommend, if you're just starting out, follow, just read through this, make sure you understand exactly how this works. Proper English helps. A prompt is sort of like what I just said. A prompt gets you going, right? It's the sort of foundation of what you want to happen. So it's like it's gonna be the thing that leads into the next thing and the next scene and the next couple of actions that happen, right? And that's sort of how you start your thing. You can get very complex with it, you can be very light with it. It doesn't really matter as long as you tweak it once you understand what you want, right? Like, once you understand exactly what you want from it, then you can tweak it and fix it however you like. Send button. I think Novel AI has one of the best flows when it comes to making and writing and just putting it all together. It really does. Especially compared to what like AI Dungeon has now. No offense to AI Dungeon, still a great program, but it's just they've implemented a lot of hurdles, at least to the editing side, I feel. And if I can't edit, send, and just keep that train going, even pseudo write has a bit of a block when it comes to just straight up editing, in that you have to insert it instead of it just continuing down the like just inserting text right here instead of streaming the tokens right here, and so that you can just edit them right off the bat. You have to insert it. That throws off my flow a little bit. But yeah. The retry button, most things have that. Sending and replacing, undoing, standard stuff, right? I don't really mess around with titles that much. Final touches. Options, we can get really in depth here. I see that they now have actual ATG or ATTG format in their thing. I don't know if they actually used to do that. And author's note is another it's a very finicky thing. I don't use it often. I think most people say not to use it often. It can be very influentially strong. We can get into that a little bit later, because I mean, even I don't use it that often, but I can show you some of the things that can be done with it. Okay, options, go there. Yeah, basically. Presets, each model has its own presets that make it do different things. Your story shelf thing, and bada bing bada boom, you're ready. Okay, I will say the tutorial and, you know, sort of generation, or I mean not generation, but the knowledge that has eventually been added to their own site is really grand. You know, they have pieced it together into a more cohesive and easier to use user experience, like an end user experience. And it sort of gives you all the knowledge that you need, though it can be pretty complex when you just hear it and you don't know any of the terms, you know. But it's much better than most things, I find, with just, you know, the info being there at least. Which is another great thing I like about it, right? Eventually you can figure it out, even if you don't have someone telling you exactly how it's done. We can work a little bit here, but let me show you exactly. Let me show you some sites that I would have up just before you start, especially if you're new. Just some things, some guides, some references that you can use to start. You might have already gotten a glimpse of them up here at the top. We have and you can find it in your sidebar, in your account section here. The documentation, it's a grand thing to have up, right? This is what I was talking about. Your special characters, your special keys, what they mean to the AI, how the AI is going to take them, how it's going to react to having them in the thing. It's all documented pretty well here. And I feel it only gets better and better every time I come back to it. Like ATTG, in the beginning, I had to like go to the Discord and stuff and find that stuff. I don't think it was here, and I don't think it was very well documented in the beginning. But now it's all here. You can get a very good beginning knowledge of what you want to do here. And one of the great things I ran across in the Discord is another great thing, and I'll link it down below. The guides from Plume, I think that's her name, but I don't really know where the name is. I believe it's Plume. It should be something like that. Anyway, these guides have been a great help. They've evolved as well over the time. they've slowly matched the format that is going forward, right? And every time there's like a major change, there's usually a major change here as well, right? Leading the way, implying these are great things to understand just out of the box, right? And a lot of this stuff I'm going to be talking about here is going to be here with great, like, dialogue. I mean, great examples, you know what I mean? And there's 3 of them. You can, I mean, I think there's like 3 or 4 of them, right? So there's the co-writing one, which is for working alongside the AI, right? The lore book, which is setting up the lore book, the memory for the memory, and the author's note for the author's note, right? But they all go into exactly what you should use it for. Things like using your author's note as a notepad instead of it really serving any purpose, such as this. And things like style and knowledge guidance. It works there. It can work in the memory too, I think. Sometimes some things can just work just about anywhere. You know what I mean? It's very, you can get a little experimental with it sometimes. But yeah, those 2 I would recommend you to have up and sort of be using alongside it, right? If you're like, well, what if I want to make a dragon that speaks to someone using telepathy, right? You go here, maybe you look at chevroning, or the, I don't know, the little greater than, less than things, angled brackets, and you can see here that what it does is it can act as those thought messages, right? It can do that pretty well. Sometimes you can even just mix it up and it'll figure it out along the way, right? Like, I don't know if we have a good example here, but I do notice the AI doing some things, and I will just catch on to it, and I will use that format instead. I think recently I've noticed instead of using chevroning, the AI has been using just apostrophes. Just, you know, blah, 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 inside of 2 little apostrophes, and that will work as a thought message or a psychic message, right? And so the format can change a little bit, and sometimes working with what it wants to use can work better than whatever they recommend. It's really up to you. If you think it works, if something isn't working, if it's getting confused, then try the regular way. And so now getting it to do what you want, right? Like getting it to move ahead in a story and sort of working with you rather than against you. It can be a bit challenging to really understand what you're supposed to do here, especially if you're pretty new and maybe only started with an instruct model like GPT-4, right? So really is all you want to do is you just want to lead it on. It's a good old just lead it on. Tell it what you think can happen, right? Also, I'm not a writer, so my stories here are not going to be like some grand opulence, but this thing can make up for what I lack in, right? You know, that's what it's here for. It's more the writer, I'm more the thought behind it, right? And that can be exactly what you want to happen. If you want to inject more of your style, if you are a strong, confident writer, then you can totally do that. And it is, at least in my case, I've noticed it pick up on style very well. And sometimes a little too well, sometimes it picks up on the wrong things and uses it weirdly, but, you know, you're going to have complications every now and then. This is going to be a bit more of a ranty section, I guess, because we just have to sort of work with it. Also, before I even started working on it here, I did switch the preset to Asper. Asper has just been working well for me. Nothing special, nothing fancy. It's just regular old Asper. So just in case you're wondering. I also do not know very much about this prompt, right? I have no idea what they've done here. They do have some other things. Okay, so let's get right into exactly what is going on here. This is clearly a lore book entry or two, right? So they have lore books for the location and the characters here. They also have the memory, right? A little bit of memory. ATTG format right off the bat here. This just basically tells you exactly, it prompts the AI into doing and taking notice of certain things, right? So it wants the tags to be sort of like you're browsing in a library, right? The tags for this book would be something along the line of magic with dragons, and the genre would be an epic fantasy, right? If you were looking for this book on a shelf, they want this book to be found in the epic fantasy section, and for its, main outstanding features to be magic and dragons, right? That's basically what ATTG is for. You can also do authors and titles. That's why it's ATTG, author, title, tags, and genre. But any combination of the few will sort of push it in a certain direction that you want it to go. So, and underneath that, it has a bit of summary about what is actually going to go on here. We can add a summary thing here just to specify. And this, the author's note here, is just to tell it what is happening exactly right now, like what it really should focus on, especially at the end of the text, right? So that it won't get confused. Like if this scene goes on for too long, it might start wanting to end it, or move on to something else, or do something like that. With this here, it's going to sort of just prod it in the right direction and be like, hey, the scene is we are with our companions fighting a dragon right now, so stick to it, right? And that'll eventually come in. It might come in right now with the, yeah. It's inserted three replies above where you start, right? Just to make sure that it's for the current section instead of like something behind it, right? We can get more into this at a different time. Right now, okay, slightly better. I like this better. Okay, we're just gonna continue, and maybe I'm just gonna push forward until the end of the fight here, and so that you can see exactly what the editing flow is like, right? But I'm probably just gonna make this a montage, so I'm gonna go quiet here for a second. And that tutorial, and get some basic reasons to go through how to start and that tutorial, and get some basic reasons to go through how to start and that tutorial.
Evidence that an investigation was even conducted. Elyria Police evidence that an investigation evidence body cam footage was even conducted. Evidence that an investigation was even conducted. Evidence that an investigation was even conducted. Evidence that evidence that an investigation was even conducted. That the body cam Elyria Police Chief William conducted declined to comment about the case other than to evidence that an investigation was even conducted. Evidence that an investigation was even conducted. Evidence that an investigation.
I don't know the exact location of where we are, so I'm trying to figure that out while I figure out what he's going to shoot down to sort of ground the dragon here. But this is exactly what you want to do, right? You just want to sort of guide it. As you can see, the stuff in blue is my work, and comparatively, there's not a lot of my work really woven in. I just sort of say, this is what I want to do. You know what I mean? I sort of point in the right direction. Now, I would say that this is a lot more than I usually have to do, and it's probably because their ATTG and their author's note was sort of throwing off my style here, and so I had to keep it in line a bit more than I usually do. Also, it isn't made by me, so I don't really know exactly what was going on here, right? So it was basically I'm just working with whatever they're trying to throw at me, right? I have like I basically just briefly looked through everything. So working with their stuff is, you know, it's a bit different than building your own story and knowing exactly what you put in the lore books. Anyways, you can get mostly anything that you want to to happen just by sort of guiding it, right? And that is exactly what this thing is good for. It's not an instruct where I would say, "Oh, shoot said thing above the thing," you know what I mean? But it's more like, okay, he does this, they're chatting. If I don't like what they say, I edit what they say, you know, and it just gets the flow going, right? And you can really get into a flow state with this, right? I didn't know exactly what was going on when I started, but I sort of built it into a good flow that was like, yeah, I sort of know what I want to do here, right? Like he got trapped up there as soon as he got up there, right? And he couldn't take a shot, right? So I was like, okay, it's using like icy crystal stuff, right? And then she said, I don't do that other type of magic, right? So she only uses fire magic, bada bing, bada boom. I'm like, okay, well, if she only does fire and this thing is ice, but she's not strong enough to, damage it directly, then surely she can take out some of the ice up top and help him out. And then he can, sort of do something up there. And that's just sort of what I went with. So, I mean, a little bit of finagling, right? And I'm sure some things here you're looking at it and you're like, wow, this is awful. But if you're a writer enough to notice like what you don't like about it, you go back in, you change it to what you do like, and then maybe it can't keep up with you, maybe it can keep up with you, but it's a lot. It can help you sort of bring up, it can give you those inspiration. It can also give you inspiration and stuff, and it can sort of set down a baseline, right? If you don't like the exact wording it uses, then you can change it. Then, change it to what you want. If you don't like the way that it uses an adjective to describe what the dragon's hide looks like a crystalline hide that shimmers in the light, then you can just say a dull silvery color, you know what I mean? And you just build on it. You just keep her going. Now, let's see if we can get this thing to, I want a chandelier to fall on the wing, right? To the ground with its, force, right? So it grounds it, right? And then we're gonna go in for the killing blow with whatever we can here. And this is more so just me sort of forcing, like, forcing a thing to happen, usually I would not do this. I would sort of let it lead me into what is going to happen, right? Like, I'm trying to end it quickly for the sake of the video, right? So this can be a more drawn out fight where it stands up, it has the chandelier still on its head, but it's not quite down and out yet, and you continue to pelt it from above with the arrows. Maybe it starts bashing around in like whatever environment it is, and it hits some structure that brings down more and more of the place with it, eventually, sort of grounding it and, tumbling the tower down. Maybe you guys escape. Maybe you guys are there for the killing blow. Doesn't matter. I mean, much like writing, it's all up to you, right? But for this, I just want it to be sort of trapped, pinned down. The horns are heavy, the chandelier is heavy, so it's, pinned down right there. Maybe its neck isn't strong enough, and then, we just sort of, I don't know, end it. You see what I'm doing there is I'm saying that it's going to get back up and they're going to make an escape, right? I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen here, right? So maybe they're here for a mission, maybe they're looking for something, maybe they just want to get in and out. Okay. I think that's a good enough. You sort of get where it's going. I don't really know about holy fire thing, maybe if that's what you want to happen, maybe you want her to use another spell. It looks like something that exposes a weakness. I would, that's clearly a make a move or run type scenario, right? You already have it pinned, you have it weakened. You could end it, but bada bing, bada boom. That's where it would lead me to go. You can start a new chapter type deal with that thing, right? And if you want to back in town, you can say they got away with whatever they wanted to do there and start somewhere else, right? And that's sort of just what you want to do. Now then, from here, it's just figure out what you want to happen. What do you want your characters to do? What do you want, what do you want the story to be about? I usually take a little bit of inspiration from either art or shows or films, things like that, so that I sort of have a premise of what I'm going to be doing here. Maybe it's more so just to see if I can do it in the style of, novel AI. Just see if I can actually bring a character in, if it's not too complex, right? You can do a lot of things. But yeah, that's sort of the first video that I want to do on here. Getting you ready to move into it, some guides, basic leading it on, right? A little bit of editing, a little bit of this and that. Sometimes going overboard with trying to help it actually hinders it. That's why, and also author's note, as I said, is very influential. That's why I took it away when I was editing there. Um, so we'll continue with the next one. Tell me what you want to know in the comments below, and have a good one.